Hi family, I'm Dr. Brenda Woburiosty. I'm a licensed daycare provider, a published author of 3 children's books, an advocate, a consultant, a veteran's wife, and a mother. If you need help setting up your daycare service or just looking for great ideas to incorporate a play-based learning approach as well as learn about research-based solutions to issues impacting education, this is the channel for you. Subscribe, share, like. Thank you. Even before COVID, sickness policies at daycare have been pretty strict. For the state of Virginia, I'm going to read you some part of the sickness policy. It says, unless otherwise approved by a child's health care professional, a child shall be excluded from the family day home if he has both fever and behavior change. A fever means oral temperature over 101.101 degree Fahrenheit or ambient temperature over 100 degree Fahrenheit. Now, the interpretation of this, it says only a digital thermometer is to be used to take a child's temperature. Temperatures are not to be taken rectally or in the ear because it is unsafe. Diarrhea, more watery, less foamed, more frequent stools not associated with a diet change or medication. Children in diapers who develop diarrhea shall be excluded, and children who have learned to use the toilet but cannot make it to the toilet in time shall also be excluded. Recurrent vomiting 2 or more times in 24 hours, or symptoms of communicable diseases listed in the Virginia Department of Health's current communicable disease chart. In addition to the symptoms listed above, fever, diarrhea, vomiting, symptoms of a communicable disease also include sudden onset of a stiff neck or headache, severe coughing that causes the child to become red or blue in the face or to make a whooping sound, sudden onset of abdominal pain, rash or blisters, pink or red eyeball with swelling of the eyelids and eye discharge, bloody stools, yellowish skin or eyes, severe itching and scratching, or swelling and tenderness of neck glands. If a child needs to be excluded according to subsection A above, which I just talked about, the parents or designated emergency contact shall be contacted immediately so that arrangements can be made to remove the child from the home as soon as possible. And the child shall remain in a quiet designated area, and the caregiver shall respond immediately to the child until the child leaves the home. So in creating your sickness policy, you have to take some part of all of parts of the state's policy standards or guidelines, and then you still check the CDC, and think of your own personal needs at your daycare, and then you create your daycare policy. For instance, the state says 101 degree Fahrenheit temperature should be excluded. I personally think by 100 degrees 0.5, a child should not be at daycare. That's pretty high temperature. So when I check temperature and the child is like 99, I'm already talking to the parent. Your child has this high temperature. I'm watching it, and if it gets to 100.5, or even anything above 99, the child has to be picked up. So it's the state's guidelines. They kind of guide you through what to do and how to create your policy. So again, a sick child will have trouble participating in daily routines and activities at daycare. They can become lethargic, they can get very cranky, very irritable, and this is understandable, and they just want to be left alone. Sometimes they don't want to play. So this is where the sickness policy comes to play. For at least for a licensed daycare, the sickness policy, just like other policies, like I said, is derived from state standards and guidelines. So many of the guidelines are very similar across the board. I'm talking about from state to state, in the United States. So for the sickness policy is one of the most difficult policies to enforce at daycare. Now, why do I say this? One of the reasons is because many parents, if not all parents, have things to do, and that's why they need daycare in the first place. Some parents need to work, and they cannot constantly take time off work to care for a sick child. You know how that is. So let's look at the bigger picture. We understand that, but then let's look at the bigger picture. When a child is sick and the child is at daycare, remember what the state says. You have to separate the child in a designated area. And if you're working by yourself as a home daycare provider, that may be impossible to do. And that's why you need to call the parents to pick up, because there are other children to take care of, and you don't want to leave 4 children unsupervised while you check on one who is secluded from the others. So I usually, because of traffic in my neighborhood, I usually give parents about 45 minutes to pick up after they are called about their child being sick. And that's considering traffic and everything. And if they think that they are far away and it won't be possible to get here by that time, they will still let me know, and I may be able to make some adjustments. But the state has specified for good reason that when a child is sick, because we are just teachers, we are not nurses or doctors. Even I used to be a geriatric nurse assistant. As much as I worked in the medical field, I cannot diagnose a child. I can see symptoms and say, this is what I'm seeing. I don't think this child should be here. This child needs to be seen by a doctor, so they can be sure. But I cannot diagnose. I cannot say they have chicken pox or they have this or that. I can only tell the parent the symptoms of what I'm seeing, and then they go to the doctor to confirm. I'm not authorized as a daycare provider to diagnose. I use past tense, to diagnose any disease. Okay, so when a child is sick at daycare, there's the potential of passing that virus or bacteria to other children, their families, even the provider and her family, and so on. And it's just going to keep spreading. Okay, so one sick child can potentially wreak a lot of havoc. Apart from keeping other families home, they can cause the daycare to shut down when there is an outbreak. Unfortunately, many life-altering and potentially life-threatening diseases like infections, C19, tuberculosis, and flu, they have very similar symptoms like runny nose, diarrhea, coughing. One thing we hear often from parents when a child is sick is just allergies or it's sinuses. This can be true. It can be true. We are not doubting what you're telling us, but there is no guarantee of this being true all the time, and we do not want to take chances. Now, since daycare providers cannot diagnose, we can only talk about symptoms, for sure. Sometimes some daycare providers require a doctor's note, so that you can be sure that the child's sickness or symptoms are not communicable, or they are that the child is safe to be at daycare. For instance, this last couple of weeks has been very hectic, and I told you I was doing enrollment. There's so much going on about enrollment, and one of it is the fact that many of the kids are sick. Some are allergies, probably sinus, but one particular child I had to send home because their nose kept running constantly, and I couldn't keep up with wiping, and they are too young to wipe it off themselves. So I had to send that child home, and I said, please, when you're coming back, you have to have a doctor's note to say that he is not contagious. He doesn't have anything that will infect the other children or even infect me. And I don't want to be sick. I don't want to close. I want to work. I want to be open so the parents can be, they can keep doing what they need to do. So I had to do that last week, and I do have to come back and do some more videos on sickness or daycare sickness policy. I hope you learned a thing or two today, and please stay tuned for more videos coming up, and bye guys.